Okay, let me share my screen and we will begin today's test. So here you have your first question on the screen for reading, writing blanks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You have 2.5 minutes. Complete the question, post your answers in the chat box. Okay, should be done. If anybody is left, please post your answer. What is various number of cars, Sahil? Various is used to show or convey variety. Extreme has many different meanings. Extreme is said like extreme temperatures, which you want to say very high or very low, both can be termed as extreme temperatures. Extreme is also used in a bit negative sense when you want to say too much of something, that is extreme. Extreme humidity, too much. Not too many is extreme, it's too much. Okay, let's look at the answers for this one. Traffic congestion dash since the 1950s in large cities thanks to the dash number of cars sold each year. So the grammar rule says whenever you have since in the sentence, you should select present perfect tense of the verb, that is has or have. So what we have here is traffic condition worsened, that is past form. Worsens is simple present. Has been, has is present perfect, and had is past perfect. What I just said is whenever we have since, we always select present perfect. So the only option we have here is has been worsening since the 1950s in large cities thanks to the dash number of cars sold each year. So traffic is increasing. Traffic congestion means traffic jams. The worsening means they are increasing. And obviously the number of cars would be more. That is why traffic will increase. So what represents dash number of cars, high number of cars? Extreme cannot be used for quantity, as I said. It is said for extreme temperatures, which can be very high and very low both. And extreme otherwise is too much of something, right? So it will not be extreme number of cars, prohibitive, various, exorbitant. Prohibitive means something which is not allowed. That is prohibitive. Various is used for different types of something. Like I have various cars. That means different types is what we are mentioning about. And exorbitant means very high. So when you want to say something, the number of something is extremely high, then we use the word exorbitant in that case. So here it will be exorbitant number of cars. Based on vocabulary, if you did not know the meaning of this word, please note it down in your vocab sheet wherever you're making one for yourself. Unfortunately, the figurative price tag attached to excessive traffic includes high carbon dioxide emissions, more collectively wasted time, and exacerbated health problems. Exacerbated, just for vocabulary, also means increased. Many municipalities have tackled the problem of traffic by implementing bicycle sharing systems in which people can borrow bikes from placed ports and ride wherever they want. The sentence was complete without the blank also. We don't need an informative word here. They said we can borrow bikes from placed ports. Now we need ly. What kind of? Strategically placed or how they were placed. Strategically placed, carefully placed, necessary. Necessary cannot come, it has to be necessarily to fit in a complete sentence. Important again doesn't make sense. From important placed ports. So what are we left with is two ly options. Carefully placed, carefully is like slowly. Like if somebody is, let's say, handling a baby for the first time, we'll say be careful. Or you are handling material which is very delicate, some like utensils of glass, and you'll say be careful so that they don't break. That is carefully. And here it will be strategically. Strategically means very thoughtfully. It's not just randomly they have put ports anywhere. They have thought of where it will be of great use, where they will solve the purpose, and according to the strategy they have placed the ports for bike riding, bike sharing. So people can borrow bikes from strategically means thoughtfully, properly planned, placed ports and ride wherever they want, as long as they eventually return the bikes to a port. Dash not necessarily the one from where the bike was originally obtained. Kind of a connector, but how are they going? What is the relationship between the two parts of the sentence? They say they have to return the bike to a port. not necessarily the one from which they obtained it. So even, not necessarily, even is when you're highlighting what you previously said. Despite, not necessarily the one, although or since. So despite is when you want to say even after, that is despite, and although is even though. So here what will fit is although. So they are saying you have to return it, but it's not necessary to return it to the same port. So even though, the port has not to be the same, not even after. So it will be even though the port has not to be the same. And since is used in place of because, other since is used from the starting of something. These are the two uses of since. As one may or may not immediately notice, this last permission creates a new problem by itself. Whenever someone borrows a bike and does not make a round trip with it, an additional bike crops up at the destination port, just as there's a loss of one bike at the origin port. As time passes, the distribution of bikes across ports becomes unbalanced, causing both an excessive dash of bikes at certain ports. So we have a blank before of, so it should be a noun. Whenever there is a blank before of, a noun should come there. It causes an excessive dash of bikes at certain ports and a dearth of bikes in others. So this was enough explanation to understand the context, that sometimes there would be somebody takes a bike from port A and leaves it at port C. Next time again from port A leaves it at port C. Let's say hundreds of people are doing the same. So there will be shortage of bikes in port A and there will be excessive number of bikes in port C, is what the explanation meant. So excessive dash of certain bikes, it will be collecting is a verb, but what we need is a noun. So collecting cannot be the answer. Growth of bikes is not a living organism that we can use the word growth for bikes. Excessive quantity of bikes or excessive accumulation. What is that they have used as the opposite? Dearth. And the opposite of dearth cannot be quantity. So they did not want it to say that, did not want to say an excessive quantity. They said excessive accumulation means, what can be a synonym of accumulation? Like too many bikes at one place, they get accumulated. And dearth means shortage. So that will be excessive accumulation in one of the ports, and dearth means shortage in the other one. Right? So these are the answers. Going through them once again. Whenever you have since, grammatically, you have to use present perfect. Two options in present perfect, singular has and plural have. So we had only one option with has and have, which was has been worsening. So we went with that. The second one is thanks to the increasing number of, very high number of. So we will say exorbitant, which means very high in academic language. So bikes from dash placed ports, we needed something with ly because the sentence was complete. So it was strategically, which meant thoughtfully, planned, in a planned way. Then we said, even though it is not necessary to return the bike at the same port, you can give it to any port, any other port. And in the last, we needed an opposite of dearth. Dearth means shortage. Accumulation means coming together, like a lot of bikes together at one place would be accumulation. Right? Any questions, anybody? Any doubts? Please do put your doubt in the chat box. So ashik, when after the, it should be noun, but when the blank is between the article and the noun is written thereafter, then we need adjective in between. So when they say the dash number of cars, so here number is the noun and here we need an adjective. So here in the last one, we needed an opposite of dearth. So they were not talking about quantity. Excessive quantity is not, we won't say there is excessive quantity of bicycles in this port. We'll say they have quantity would be when we are, for example, placing the order, that how much quantity do you need us to send. That is quantity when you're counting it. Here we didn't mean counting. We said that it would come together at one place and other places it would be shortage. So that's how. Yes, excessive quantity otherwise will mean that more than required, but it won't fit according to the context because quantity word will not match. That they're both an excessive quantity of bikes means excessive number of. They did not want to highlight number. They were highlighting that it will be like collection of bikes, excessive collection at one point and shortage at the others. In that sense, they wanted a word. Third one is strategically, which means that the ports, the places that they have made from where you can rent the bike, they were planned thoughtfully, that we'll one have at this place because here it's a rush area. We'll have one at this place because of so and so reason. So it's strategically placed ports. And despite is even after. If you read the sentence, even after won't fit, even though will fit. And that's why we're putting although here, which means even though. All good now? No worries, no worries. Anybody else still has a question? All right, so here goes your question number 2 on the screen, and you have 2.5 minutes for this as well. Please post your answers in the chat box and we have a discussion. Yes, should be done. Anybody left to post? Okay, let's look at the answers. Good attempt by many of you. SEO stands for search engine optimization. In simple terms, it means the process of improving your site to increase its dash when people search for products or services related to your business in Google, Bing, or other search engines. So if we go by the understanding, what we understand is when people search for Google on Google, let's say people are searching on Google PTE centers in Parramatta or in Sydney. So your center should come up in their search. That is improving your site. So increase its visibility. More and more people are able to see it. That's visibility. But the answer was even given in the very next sentence where they clarified that we are not talking about improving the quality or the clarity. We were talking about the more and more people coming to know about your business. So it was increasing the visibility, because they particularly said when people are searching in Google and Bing. So when people are searching, quality doesn't matter in searching. Your name should come up in the search. That is visibility. The better visibility your pages have in search results, the more likely you are to dash attention. Do we attract attention? No, we say attract the audience. We don't say attract the attention of audience. For attention, we use gather the attention. Haven't you heard like people in live concerts or something like that, where you have a massive crowd, people saying that, may I please have your attention? May I please gather your attention? Or sometimes people give advices like you have to gather everybody's attention with your speech. It is gathering. And the better word for saying gather is garner. Better academic version of saying gather is garner. So it will be the better visibility your pages have in search results, the more likely you are to gather attention, and hence it will be to garner attention and attract dash and existing customers. So dash and existing means this word should also define customers. So one we have existing, one we want the new customers. So what for new will be some customers, aspiring, prospective, approaching. It will be prospective. Prospective means which can be your customers. Like when we have meetings here at Language Academy, say that we have to focus on prospective students, prospective result students, that those who are almost on the verge of getting the result. So to be successful students is prospective. Search engines such as Google and Bing use bots to crawl pages on the web, going dash site to site. So it was easy. From site to site means from one site to the other. It won't be on site to site. Along is with, and within site to site. Within is in one site, so it cannot be two site with it. We'll say one site to another will be from and to. Think of the index like a giant library where a librarian can pull up a book to help you find exactly what you are looking for at the time. Next, algorithms analyze pages in the index, taking into dash hundreds of ranking factors or signals to determine the order pages should appear in the search results for a given query. So taking into account is one collocation, taking into consideration is another collocation. What we have here is taking into account, taking into vision, taking into thought, or taking into fact is no collocation, but yes, taking into account is a collocation. So we'll select that. These are the answers. Going through them once again. The first one was based on context as well as the hint that they were talking about. More and more people should be able to see your page when they're searching on Google or any search engine. So they were talking about visibility. Second is gather attention. That is the verb gather that we use with the noun attention. But we had a better academic version to say gather, which was garner. So we'll go with that. Third one is dash and existing. One existing is the customers that we already have. Prospective is the ones who we can convert into. So it will be prospective customers. Then from and to go together, from site to site, and taking into account as a collocation. So Manjot, when do we use the word aspiring? I am an aspiring CA student. So aspiring is used in that context, like your desires, your goals, that is your aspiration. Your goals and aspirations, like we use in that sense. Customers won't be aspiring customers. Third cannot be D. Approaching and existing. So we'll say attract approaching and existing customers. We are not attracting approaching customers. Customers who are already approaching us, we don't need to attract them. They're already attracted. That's why they're coming to us. So attract those who are not actually coming to us. So we have to get them to us. That is prospective. Ones who can become our customers, but they are not at the moment taking an initiative from their side. So we have to approach them. Garner means gather, Kashif. So it can be gathering approval, gathering attention, gathering anything, but garner is not approval, garner is gather. They have given the examples of what can you write with garner when they write approval. Right? Anybody else, any question? Is it all good? All right. So Manjot, when two words have same meaning, you have to select the one which is lesser used, which is less common. And the one which is less common is more academic. So gather is what normally we'll use, like gather attention, as I said, or gather your confidence, or gather. Collect would be very common, gather will be lesser common, and garner would be the least common. Right? So Kashif, they were not talking about attracting. Where was it? Attract. We don't attract attention. We attract customers. Right? For attention, the verb that we use is gather attention of customers. Okay. Right, so here is question number 3, and you have 2.5 minutes to solve this. Post your answers in the chat box once you're done. Okay, should be done by now. Please post your answers. Good, very good. For us, be careful about the language of the context and rather clear your concepts for active and passive, please. You always need to check whether you need a positive answer or a negative answer, positive or negative word. That will help you to eliminate some of the options. Oh, Justin, you got your result. I was about to call you, you know. I just checked that the exam was 2 p.m. and I thought it is enough time that I should give you a call to ask. You didn't inform me. I just read it on the paper that I wrote yesterday on. Congratulations, celebrations. Congratulations from all of us. I'll convey your congratulations, everybody. How was the exam? Like, good, average, easy? So listening 90, reading 81, speaking 90 and writing 89, overall 88. Very good. Good attempt. Well done. Congratulations once again from all of us and all the very, very best for your future. Okay, let me, so you can unmute yourself and you can just share your experience with everybody.
Hello.
Yes,
Can you
yes, you're
hear
audible,
me?
Josh.
So I don't know what to say. I just can say thank you.
Just like a piece of like advice, what things they should take care in the exam, you know, like people have their exams very soon. So any tips from your side that you think will be important for everybody going to the test?
It is that do read all the predictions before going to the exam. I got some questions from the predictions.
Okay,
In
that's good.
reading and writing in the blanks and probably in reorders as well.
Okay.
So I
Very
was
good.
in doubt about the multiple choice questions, especially in listening. I had a doubt that I might not get a score in my listening, but I'm
Okay.
not sure. I don't know how I got 90.
See, those questions are not that important.
Yeah.
Even if you're making a guess, like if you're not understanding anything in the first go, don't spend more time on those
Yeah, probably
questions.
my
Just make a
guesses
one
weren't
guess.
correct. In my listening, my guesses were correct, maybe.
Maybe that's okay. Even if,
Yeah.
let's say, those questions would have gone wrong, it would be like 1 or 2 marks, 88, 89 still will be there. So,
And in writing, I would say just stick to the template. No need to do anything. I got 89 because I know that I had one spelling mistake. It's probably deducted for that.
that's okay.
Because I got that same word in my listening as well. So then I got to know that, oh, I wrote it wrong.
Okay.
And speaking was fine. I got 90. Don't worry about repeating 100% content in your repeat sentences.
That's
If
a
it's
good
a
thing.
if it's a small sentence, then you must repeat 100%. But if it's a long sentence, then you can repeat 70-80% is fine, I would say.
Nice.
And listening, do focus on spellings, I can say.
Very important.
And readings, I think predictions should do the job. If you are good at reading, then you must do the predictions.
So prediction is something all of you must do before going to the test, but don't only rely on repetition.
Yeah.
That's very important. Because
I
even
got a
if,
few questions, but not obviously
yeah,
not
not
all of
obviously
them.
all of that was I was about to say. There will be few
But that
questions repeated,
question,
but
those questions saved my time. Normally we spend
yeah,
2.5
that
minutes or
this is
something
important. Yeah.
on one fill in the blanks. if you know that about that too, so you will spend only 1 minute or something, or maybe even less than 1 minute. That
And
would
you can
save you
save
time.
that time to do the questions which are not repeated, and you can properly apply the things that you have learned.
Yep,
And
exactly.
you don't have to rush. So basically,
Even I
the
had
problem
5 to
is
6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes left in last of my two questions. Those
okay.
in which we select the summary, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had around 5 to 6 minutes left for those two questions.
that's nice. That's nice.
Yes,
But
I'm talking
anyhow,
about
Darshan,
LA.
congratulations. All the very, very best for your future. We hope that whatever reason you give the exam for, it gets fulfilled very soon.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It means a lot. You're welcome, Darshan. You're welcome.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Okay. Good day. And let's get back to work. Okay, let's discuss the answers. Dash the late 20th century, the graphic design discipline had been based on handicraft processes. So what tense have they used? Had been based. Had been means you have to talk about past of some time period. Once say previously the late 20th century is wrong English. Until the late 20th century, until means before that time period. And what I just said is had been means it will be before something. That is when we use had, before something. So it will be until means before the 20th century. This used to be the case. The discipline had been based on handicraft processes. You won't say after the late 20th century, then you won't use had in that case. Had, as I said, is past to something past. Now 20th century is past because we are in 21st century. So this is past and we have to go to past than 20th century. So that's why had comes here. So what they are saying is the graphic design discipline had been based on handicraft processes, and then they're explaining what were those processes. Layouts dash by hand. So by tells us it is an active or passive voice. It's passive voice, right? So for passive voice, we don't use has, have, and had. They are used in active voice. So we can eliminate have been drawn and had drawn. Though have been drawn can come, but we need past tense, so have cannot come. So what are we left with? This layouts dash by hand in order to visualize a design. We have a comma, type was specified, type proofs and photostats of images were assembled. So what tense are they using? Was and were. So we should also go with the same. It will be layouts were drawn by hand in order to do this and this and that. Over the course of the 1980s and early 90s, however, rapid advances in digital computer hardware and software radically dashed graphic design. So if we don't read the ly word because they cannot impact the answer, so we can say rapid advances in digital computer hardware and software dashed graphic design. So advances, plural noun. Advances altered the design. Advances was modified. Now advances is plural. We cannot use was with advances. Advances amends. Advances is plural. We cannot use amends with it. Advances changed the design. Possible. Now out of changed and altered, change is a common word. Altered also means change, but it's a better academic word, so we should go with that. Advances altered. Also, amends can be eliminated on the basis of tense because the tense that they are using is past. So amends is present tense. That cannot be the answer, right? Software for Apple's 1984 Macintosh computer, such as the Mac Point program by computer programmer Bill Atkinson and graphic designer Susan Kare, had a dash human interface. So had a human interface, the sentence is complete. What we need is adjective. What kind of human interface? Because interface would be a noun. Thorough human interface makes sense. Orderly human face. Something negative, we are actually talking that these two people have developed something, have programmed something. There's nothing till the sentence hints us that there has to be negative. Rising human interface, rising cannot be human interface, like the interface of some website cannot be rising or falling, that's increasing or decreasing. Revolutionary means very new, something which is really new and has a new impact is revolutionary. So thorough and revolutionary would be almost the same context, but revolutionary would be better than thorough because thorough has different other meanings also. Thorough, like in detail, like you say, do a thorough revision. So thorough means very detailed, very minute, do each and everything. That's also one meaning of thorough, but revolutionary has only one meaning, something which is very new, very different. So we'll say it had a revolutionary human interface. Tool icons controlled by a mouse or graphics tablet, dash designers and artists. So a mouse dash designers, or let's say tablet dash designers to use computer graphics. Can we say tablet made designers to use? Tablets prepare designers. What tense are we in again? Controlled. So this is still continuing in 1984. It cannot be present tense. And authorization, everything that ends with TION is a noun, but we do have designers and artists here, which is a noun. So we don't need a noun. We have to say tablets enable designers to use graphic computers, or tablets made designers to use computer graphics. So it will be enabled. Enabled means make it possible for them, made it possible for them to use computer graphics in an intuitive manner. Right, so these are the answers. Going through them once again. Until, because we are talking about past of something. How do we know it's past? From the language had been, means used to be. So it's before 20th century, it used to be the case. Layouts dash by hand, because they have used was specified, they have used were assembled to give the same examples. We will also follow the same examples. Layouts were drawn by hand. Third, we had numerous options. Was modified cannot come because advances is plural. Amends cannot come because we need past tense. Changed and altered means the same thing. So altered is a better version. We'll select that. And next one was dash human interface. What kind of interface? Thorough or revolutionary? Thorough has many meanings. Revolutionary has more direct, specific meaning. So we'll go with that, revolutionary interface. And tablet and mouse, it enabled, these things enabled designers to use computer graphics. Enabled means made it able for them or made it possible for them. So Fatima, even if active passive is not clear, this can be simply done from the language. Was specified, were assembled. So you should also go with something it was and were, not with has and have. Otherwise, if you say layouts have or layouts had drawn, that means layouts has drawn something, right? So layouts are drawing something, that means had drawn, right? Any other doubt in this question, anybody? All right. So we have question number 4 and 2.5 minutes. Put your answers in the chat box. Force can establish people. Them is what, always question yourself for the pronouns, that how, for what are they using this, that, these, those, them, it, and makes it easier to get the answer. Okay, let's look at the answers for this one. It says it is obvious that in primitive communities, peasants left to themselves would not have parted with the slender surplus upon which the warriors and priests subsisted, but would have either produced less or consumed more. At first, sheer force dashed them. Them would be peasants. We have only one, I think, people here. Force dashed them to produce and part with the surplus. So when you read the first sentence, it seems like it's going to be a very technical kind of topic. If that happens with you, then you start reading and the first sentence seems very complicated. Don't start rereading it at that point of time. It's wastage. Sometimes the sentences in which you actually have the blanks, they don't really need to understand the context. So that's just, okay, they are talking about some peasants and they have some kind of surplus. Consumption and production is the topic going on. That's it. At first, force dashed them. So force, we understand what is force, dash them to produce and part with the surplus. So it is a past thing going on. So they were talking about primitive communities. So primitive means earlier times. So force, pressure them, it should be pressurized them. Compelled is like to make to push somebody to do something which they may not be willing to do. So they're not ready to do, but yes, you are compelling them to do something. Establish them. Now force cannot establish somebody, not a thing, somebody. And force imposed them to produce. Imposed is like used for taxes, penalties, rules. Those things are imposed. So force pushed them, compelled them to produce and part with the surplus. Gradually, so there is a blank between two commas, so we need a connector. And connector, however, does in spite or yet. A connector which has two commas before and after, you have to link this particular sentence with the previous sentence. So you need to understand what relationship two sentences are having with each other. So previously they said force compelled them to produce. And here gradually it was found possible to induce many of them to accept an ethic according to which it was their duty to work hard. So earlier it was forcefully done. Later on, gradually, slowly, they accepted it as their duty. So we are going opposite. So it will be however. Whenever we go opposite in the context, we always use the connector, however, in that case. So gradually, so you can read however, gradually it was found possible to induce many of them to accept an ethic according to which it was their duty to work hard, although part of their work went to support others in idleness. The conception of duty has been a means used by holders of power to dash others to live for their interest, for the interest of their masters. The hint of this was given in the paragraph when they used the word induce. Here also with two, you need first form of verb. And let's first look at the options. The holders of power to bring about others to live for the interest, to allow others, it's not a permission thing going on, to cause others, we cannot cause any other human being, to induce others, induce again means to push others, to live for the interest of their masters, dash for their own. So it was to live for somebody else's interest rather than your own interest. So for example, you're doing something not for your benefit, for somebody else's benefit. Not because you want to do it, but because somebody else wants you to do it. That is rather than their interest. Of course, the holders of power conceal this fact from themselves by managing to believe that their interests are identical with the larger interests of humanity. Leisure is essential to civilization, and in dash times, leisure for the few was only rendered dash. So even if we don't understand this, this says leisure is essential, and in dash times, What kind of word can we use with times? In former times, preceding, the opposite of preceding is succeeding. Preceding, succeeding are these the words that we use with times. Early times, primary times. Primary, secondary is not what time periods are. We don't say in early times, we say in earlier times. So what is the substitute for saying earlier? It is former. Former is used in place of earlier. We cannot say in early times. In early, we can say if the sentence says in the early times of colonization, then we can say early in that sense. Here in the next sentence, they were actually comparing the earlier and the modern things. So it was a comparison. So we should go with second form of verb. In earlier times, leisure for the few was only rendered dash by the labors of the many. Leisure for the few was only rendered potential, only rendered possible. Rendered would be in very easy language, you can say made or provided. So leisure for the few was only made possible, made available, made probable, made potential. It was simply that it was only possible by the labors of the many. So it means if somebody wants to have leisure, somebody else has to work. Somebody else has to do the labor for that person. Only then that person can relax and live leisure or entertain himself or herself in free time. So this is what the sentence meant. Right, so we'll go through it once again. The first one is primitive communities tells us that we are going to talk about past tense. It's not present tense or future tense. So force compelled them, pushed them, something that they were not willing to do, to produce this and that gradually, however. So first they used to push them to do that thing, but later on, but then they accepted that thing as their duty. So however, now we are going opposite. Now nobody's forcing them. They think it is their duty to do that. So they are willingly doing that. Then they say people who had power, they used to push others to live, who used to force others. And the same way the word they have used is to induce others to work for their own interests rather than to work for the interest of their masters rather than their own interests. And we say in earlier times, not early. So what is the substitute for earlier would be former times. And the last one, leisure was only rendered possible. It was only possible for one person to like enjoy watching movie or going out if the other person will work at their place. So leisure was only rendered possible by the labors of the many. Right? Is it fine? Imposed in the first one, force imposed them. So as I gave the example, imposed, force cannot impose. Impose is used with when you levy something on somebody, like rules are imposed on people, penalties are imposed on people. Imposed is used in that sense. Last one is it is only possible for one to have leisure when other people work on in their part. So leisure is essential to civilization, and in earlier times, in the past, leisure for the few was only rendered possible. It was only possible for some people to have leisure by the labors of the many, because other people used to work for them. Okay, is it clear now? All right. So one more question for reading writing blanks, number 5. Small one. Take 2.5 minutes and post your answers in the chat box. No worries, Sonia. Very good. I'm very happy with the first one. Now all of you remember that often is also an adverb. So everything that ends with ly is an adverb, and we did two other adverbs. One was often, one was TOO2. So if the sentence is complete and you have a verb after, then you have to put adverb, something with ly or often or to. So here in the first one, the word with ly did not fit. We had one other adverb, which was often. The term American Indian is used to refer to the indigenous cultures of the Western Hemisphere in general. So a complete sentence, but still we have to add on something, is repeatedly used. We don't know it was repeatedly used or not. There's no hint given to us that this word was repeatedly used. So it is a contextual thing, and contextual thing cannot be our answer. Is often used means commonly used, and we know often is an adverb. Is often used to refer to the indigenous cultures of the Western Hemisphere in general. Its constituent parts were in use from at least the early 16th century. The word Indian came to be used because Christopher Columbus repeatedly expressed the mistaken belief that he had reached the shores of South Asia. Convinced he was correct, Columbus dashed the use of the term Indios to refer to the peoples of the so-called New World. So Columbus dashed the use of the term Indios. Past tense, obviously. Columbus started the use of, seems correct, but started is a very general word which can have thousands of meaning, like start the machine, start your work, starting the journey, right? Started the use of the term. Raised the use of, raised is like one physically raising something in height, and raised is like raise the question, that's also raised. Fostered the use of, fostered means encouraged, can come. Referred the use of, referred comes with to, refer to the use of, so referred cannot come. Out of started and fostered, we should better go with fostered rather than the word started, which is very, very general. So Columbus encouraged the use of the term Indios to refer to the peoples of the so-called New World. The term America came into use as a referent to the continents of the Western Hemisphere as 1507. We generally say as early as. So we say as soon as is with as soon as possible kind of thing. When we have a year mentioned, then we don't say as soon as, you'll say as early as, means going back to this time period, started from this. So as soon as 1507, when the German cartographer Martin published a map naming them the Italian explorer Amerigo Vespucci, whatever. When we say name after, when we say name, we always use name after. For example, there's a person who discovered an island. So we want to name the island after the name of that person. So it's always used named after together. Naming them after this person's name. The word American was soon thereafter appended to Indian to dash the indigenous peoples of these regions from those of South Asia. So with to, it has to be first form. To distinguishable, everything that ends with able is a noun. To differentiate one people from others, to vary one people from others, to separate one people from others. It will simply be to differentiate between these people and those people. Separate is like they're living together and you want to separate them. Differentiate, that we should be able to, okay, these ones are called Indian and these ones would be called Americans. So we want to have a differentiation, that who should be called Indians and who should be called Americans. Okay, so the first one was the term is used and the sentence was complete. So we'll say the term is often used because often is an adverb that can come in a complete sentence. Second is Columbus encouraged the use of. So we selected fostered because started is too general to write in this way. Hemisphere as early as is kind of a collocation. Almost is also an adverb, yes. Third is as early as. Fourth is we always say name after when we have a name of a person and we want to use that name to name something else. So we say name after this person. And last is to differentiate these people from those people. Right? Any questions, anyone? Any confusions? Yes, Asha, well and almost both would be adverbs. All good till here? No confusions? Should we start with the orders then? We have reorders after. Thank you. So your first question for reorders is on the screen and you have 2 minutes. Do not guess. Use your hints. First find the hints, then use the hints. Wow, very good. Starting with the correct answer. Harish. Okay, so the first one says, but there, but means we cannot start with it. We have to go opposite to this sentence before this sentence, but many other animals have tusks. So we have already talked about some animal or animals who or which have tusks. And we are saying many other also have tusks, including all these names. Despite being an iconic feature of modern and fossil mammals, the mystery remains of what evolutionary steps led to the development of this dental phenomenon and why are mammals the only animals today with tusks? And we have a question mark. The question mark will only come in the question in the one, 2, or 3 sentences if we have an answer to that question. If the answer to the question is not given, then the question mark comes at the end. Harish, please note this down. Most people picture an elephant when imagining animals with tusks. It is a complete sentence, which was your first sentence. Though the size of the animal and their tusks can vary, they all have one unique thing in common in that they are only found on mammals. There are no known fish, reptiles, or birds with tusks. So we'll say most people picture an elephant when imagining animals with tusks, but many other animals, others, because you've already talked about elephants. Elephants have tusks. Many other animals also have tusks. And then we keep on talking about tusk in some way. It can vary according to this and that feature. And in the end, we'll have the question because we do not have the answer to the question. So it will be at the end. And very, very good attempt. Any doubts, anyone? All good, everyone? Okay, very good. Let's move ahead to question number 2. Okay, target a full score in the orders. Those who have done the first one correct, put your best to do all of them correct today. 2 minutes, second question. I'm giving you 30 seconds to check. I won't say who. Some of you can do it better. 30 seconds to recheck. Kamalveer. Okay. Art made thereafter. So after what? The first question should be after what? We have to find out. Is considered contemporary. There is a difference. This is where the thing is starting. First, you will say that yes, there is a difference. Then you will explain the difference. You're explaining all the differences and then say yes, in the end, yes, there is a difference. What sense does it make? So first you'll say there is a difference. One difference is there, and it is based on rough date ranges established by art historians, art critics, this and this and this people who recognized a distinct shift that take place marking the end of modernism and the beginning of the contemporary age. This part, only these 4 words played all the role. There is a difference. Well, first of all, the 2 terms are not interchangeable. The 2 terms, so which 2 terms are they talking about? Have you ever wondered about the difference between modern and contemporary art? This was your first sentence, because this is the topic. That have you ever thought what is the difference between modern art and contemporary art? Modern art is that which was created sometime between 1860 and the late 1860s. So this is, then they started talking about the difference, explaining the date ranges which they talked about here. So first they say, have you ever wondered what is the difference between modern and contemporary art? Well, first of all, the two terms means modern and contemporary. They are not interchangeable. There is a difference between them. And what is the difference? 60s is the modern art, and after 60 is the contemporary art. What was difficult in this? Put your questions, ask your doubts. Good, Jagmeet. Very good, Sahil. Good, Asha. See, these kind of questions, those who are attending the classes for like a month or something, these kind of questions should be correct now. Still, anybody who has any question, please do ask. Do we need to answer straight after the question? Sign, this depends on. For example, if they would not have given us these two, B and C, then after the question, we will straight away answer. So it depends upon, like before the answer, now they're saying, yes, there is a difference. So obviously we'll put that first and then we will explain the difference. So there cannot be a fixed answer to, we should directly answer. It depends upon what is contained in the other sentences. Okay. No worries. All right. Next question number 3, 2 minutes. And continue the full score, those who are getting in the first two. The others, never mind, start fresh from this question and read properly. It's all about reading and finding the hints. Okay, if I give you a hint that the first pair is not BA, then what will be your answer? What else would you want to put with B if not A? This was basically in a chronological order of life that the answer is framed. Like, I'll explain you how and what I mean. His unexpected accession to the throne foisted heavy military responsibilities upon him, and the early years of his reign were consumed by repelling ruthless Danish assault. So there are two things. One is unexpectedly he was given the throne, because of which he had military responsibilities. And the early years when he became the king, he was facing Danish assaults. Alfred's avid dedication to learning defined the years of his reign as King of Essex following his victory at Edington in 878, after which he sought to improve his own knowledge. This is where we have the name of the person. That's why B will be the first sentence. And during an interlude in these invasions, so these invasions means reference. So we have to talk about some invasions before this sentence. Although he had displayed a desire for learning in his youth, he was unable to commit to these interests later in his life. So first we introduce the person, that this person was something and something about promoting education reforms in his kingdom. Then we start about from in his life, that early in youth years, he had a desire for learning, but he could not commit to these things. Then came the reason why he could not commit, because he had to succeed to the throne unexpectedly, and then years were wasted facing the assaults. And after that, number 4, sorry, this should be 3. During an interlude in these invasions were invasions by the Danish. So assaults or invasions would be in the same sense. So these invasions means these assaults. Then he began to assemble a court of scholars in order to remedy the illiteracy and lack of learning. So this was going on how his life went. This was the person in early years, youth years, he wanted to study, but he could not. Then came the reason why he could not, because he was unexpectedly succeeded to the throne and he had military responsibilities. But later on, because here they'll say these invasions, so this has to come after the invasions. So during an interlude of in these invasions, he again jumped on to this promoting literacy and learning in his kingdom. Right? Good, Sahil, very good. Anybody else who still has a question? I won't classify this as a very, very easy question, because this was not based on hints like words, but this was based on that you have to find out that, okay, which bases are they flowing? Is the information flowing? The basis of flowing of that information was the life of a person. So first youth, and then he became the king, then he fought as a king with others, and then during one of those like fights, he realized something. Very good. Ben, Jagmeet, Kashif, Arab, those who even have not scored good, please just try to understand that what things are you missing. It will hardly take 1 or 2 days to improve in reorders. The moment you realize that, okay, this is the way of doing reorders, you will learn it right that moment. Okay. And we have one more reorder today. Jagmeet, one more to go. 3 more scores, 3 more marks on auction. Let's see who takes them. 2 more minutes. Solve this. Yes, done. Kamalveer, what is the example rule? Example comes after explanation. So this says experts have long understood that negative experiences early in life among rodents and other mammals, including humans, can affect later social development. So we have, what elements do we have? We have experts, we have negative experiences, and then we have negative experiences in rodents, mammals, humans, and negative experiences can affect social development. So these are all the elements of the question. However, exactly what changes incurred in the brain as a result of such adversity remained unclear. So such adversity means we have talked about some adversity. And however means but. We don't know the reasons of such adversities. Past studies, for example. Now, for example, you can read in the beginning, for example, past studies in rats have found that limited bedding causes mother rats to roughly handle pups, impacting pups' social behavior. This is the example of impact on social behavior. Was there any sentence in which we explained this thing in something that can affect social development? It was here. So these things affect social development. Then we took an example of rat, like see in rats, this affects social behavior throughout their lives. Changing levels of the chemical dopamine, a chemical most associated with motivation, may help explain why stressful experiences during infancy can lead to lasting behavioral issues, a new study in rodents shows. This was your first sentence, and only few of you got it correct, because here is what is the topic. The topic was about the stressful experiences during infancy, and this was the topic of the study, that a new study shows that this has lasting impacts on behavioral issues. So this was first. Then they say, what was the belief before that? Experts have long understood that negative experiences, it impacts social development, and the example in rats, this thing affects their social behavior. But what changes occurred in the brain as a result of such adversity remained unclear. So such adversity would be all the negative experiences can be termed as adversities. It still remains unclear, right? So experts will come after the study will come first, then experts will come. ओहो, साहिल तुम पार्टी दे दो, तुम्हारा स्कोर आएगा फिर एक और दे देना। ये सारे रीऑर्डर्स ठीक होने खुशी में एक अभी दे दो पार्टी, ठीक है? वेरी नाइस, गुड अटेम्प्ट, good, very good. Those who have got 12 out of 13, 11 out of 13, 10 out of 13, very good score. So when we are asking for a party from Sahil, because he has got a full score in reorders. This was discussed in a regional language. I am sorry for that. Sahil has made me emotional today. Okay, enough chit-chatting. Let's move on to blanks. I got 2 questions full marks. Very good. All of you are improving. I'm very happy to say this. This gives me a lot of motivation and energy to take the class even till so late. I never feel like tired or stressed. It's only because I see such good improvements. So you people are the result. You people are the reason for some other people improving. Nice, Asha, very good. Finally, we are having happy atmospheres doing reorders also. Everything comes with time, gradually. Okay, first question for reading blanks. 2 minutes for this and post your answers in the chat box. Yes, should be done by now. This says in the centuries after European settlers arrived in North America, Native American communities were dashed, divided, combined, and sometimes destroyed. Communities, and we need ED. What can we do with communities with in past tense? Relocated is the only option past, I think. Communities were transferred. We cannot transfer communities. They can be relocated, means from one place they were earlier located in one place and then they shifted to another place. That is relocation. But transferring is like not possible for communities. They were divided, they were combined, and sometimes destroyed. Millions of first inhabitants were killed, their land usurped, don't know this word, and their rich cultures stifled. Indigenous peoples, however, did not disappear with history. They continued to live dash the US. So it can be everywhere in the US, but we don't have in, so we cannot put everywhere. What else means everywhere in the US? Throughout the US. Today marks the beginning of Native American Heritage Month, an opportunity to recognize Native Americans' diverse difficult histories. The noun is plural. Here also we need plural noun. Diverse cultures, difficult histories, and contributions. Something that can be used as an adjective for contributions. Ongoing contributions. Continuing, ongoing would be still in. Now also we have they contribute, so it will be ongoing contributions. So Johnson transfer, we cannot transfer a community. They can be relocated, but we cannot transfer them. Okay. Any doubts, anybody in this question? Second one, so communities were we need past tense. So what past options do we have? One is transferred, one is relocated. What is the word that fits with communities? American communities. Communities would be group of people. Can we transfer a group of people? We can relocate them, or they can be relocated based on certain factors. For example, they seem that the policies or the rules are not in their favor, so they just move to some other place. That is relocation. But we cannot transfer a group of people. Okay. So next is number 2. And you have 2 minutes. Rohit, where do you want to go via space? Is there any other place even beyond space? Into space, right? Another potential commercial application is the transport of fare-paying passengers into space. They want to go into space, known as space tourism. Various surveys have suggested a dash among many in the general public to spend dash sums for the opportunity to experience space travel. So various surveys have suggested a dash. With a, we need a noun. Let's see what nouns do we have. One we have is development, one we have quality, one we have willingness. Everything that ends with NESS is a noun. So surveys have suggested a willingness among people. Out of these things, quality, development, and willingness, what is a thing that can be among people? So development can be among people. So it will be willingness among people in general public to spend dash sums of money. So sums would be sums of money. So we'll say considerable means huge sums of money for the opportunity to travel, to experience space travel. Although a very limited number of wealthy individuals have purchased trips into Earth's orbit to visit the ISS, International Space Station, at a very high price, large-scale dash of the space tourism market will not be possible. Something noun again, because the blank is before of. So large-scale development. This was 3. And considerable is, willingness is 2. So large-scale development of the space tourism will not be possible until less expensive, highly reliable transportation systems to orbit have been developed. Have been developed means until this thing has been done, people won't go into space. So large transportation systems have been developed. Any questions, anyone? Good attempt. Still any doubts? Via won't be preposition. Via would rather be a conjunction, I suppose. So when we say until, Fatima, until would be until this has been done. So in this way, you can use a sentence, frame a sentence with until. I won't allow you to go to play until you have finished your work. So we won't say until you are finishing your work. Until will always come with until you have done something. Always with until this thing has been done will be the grammar. Second one is various surveys have suggested a dash among many in the general public. So many would be people. So out of the 3 nouns that we have, quality, development, and willingness, what can be between people, among people? So people can have willingness, their desire to go into space. Desire, their have suggested desire among people to go into space. May this can clear now. Is it fine, Navdeep? Did you understand now? Fatima is the last one, fine. So with until, you will, I think mostly always you will put until this has been done, until we have achieved the target, should be present perfect with until. Okay, question number 3. 2 minutes for this. Sums was noun here. Huge sums. Sums were actually sums of money. So they just said sums here. Upcoming centuries. Upcoming is yet to come. The upcoming episode of something yet to come. Subsequent is what fits here. Subsequent means after that, what you have mentioned. So this would be the dash of graphic design as a practice and profession has been closely dashed to technological innovations. The dash of, we need a noun. What noun do we have? We have evolution and expansion. So what would be the answer? They say as a practice and profession. So graphic design evolved into as a practice and as a profession. So it will be evolution. Graphic design is not an area that can be expanded, or expansion is like diversified. But here we are saying the evolution, that earlier it was just a small hobby maybe, and then it evolved and evolved and it became a practice and a profession. So evolution of graphic design as a practice and profession has been closely dashed to technological innovations. Some of you have written associated. Till now, you should be knowing that associated comes with, not associated comes with to. Especially when you have something that comes with to, bound to. Closely bound to means like closely related to. Something which gets impacted if the first thing gets impacted. So if technological innovations are impacted, the graphic designing will also be impacted. That is bound to something. Technological innovation, societal needs, and the visual imagination of practitioners. Graphic design has been practiced in various forms throughout history. Indeed, strong examples of graphic design dash to manuscripts in ancient China, Egypt, and Greece. So strong examples date back. Examples is plural. We need a verb without s. Examples date back to manuscripts in ancient time period. As printing and book production developed in the 15th century, advances in graphic design developed dash it. So printing and book production developed in 15th century. Advances in graphic design developed along it. Alongside means side by side. When one thing developed, alongside the other thing also developed. So graphic design developed alongside it over dash centuries. So over subsequent centuries. Subsequent means after the ones that like 15th century is what they have mentioned. So subsequent means the next to 15 centuries. Upcoming would be like 22nd century is the upcoming century, not the 16th century is the upcoming century. Right? Any doubts, anybody? Is the expansion thing clear? Expansion would be to include more areas into it. Diversification is expansion. But here they are talking about graphic design as a small activity and then becoming a profession gradually. So that is evolution. Third blank. Strong examples of graphic design expansion to ancient China. Johnson, what sense does it make? So we are saying we have got very strong examples that this graphic designing was even there in ancient China, Egypt, and Greece. So date back means those examples take us back to ancient China and Egypt. Right? Any other question, anyone? Okay, the fourth question. 2 minutes for this also. Okay, should be done. Post your answers. It's an easy question. Good. So this says malaria, a parasitic disease dash by bites from infected mosquitoes. So it is transmitted by bites from infected mosquitoes, causes 500,000 deaths per year. It's complete sentence. We need something with ly. What we have is nearly, the only one option, nearly 500,000 deaths per year, mostly in children in sub-Saharan Africa. It is a disease that preys dash the poorest of the poor. So with praise, the preposition that we use is on. Always say prey on or praise on, depending on the type, but on comes with prey. It causes the most disease and death in places where people lack dash to basic health care. So people lack what to basic health? People lack access. Access means reach. This excess means more than required. So people lack access to basic healthcare where housing conditions allow mosquitoes to enter and where inadequate water management provides breeding ground for mosquitoes. Dash international efforts to control it. The burden of malaria has continued. So we have contrast in the sentence. One is saying that we have done international efforts. The other one is saying the burden is still continuing. So we have contrast. So we'll go with despite, although, or even though, something like that. So we do have despite. Despite international efforts, the burden of malaria has continued and even increased dash the past several years. Several years is an indefinite time period, can be 10, 12, 15, 20 years. So it will be over. Over means all through these years. When you want to say, then we say over these years. Right? And a good attempt, very, very good attempt. Some of you were confused between over and on. So with praise, we select on. Praise on is the collocation, not praise over. Any other doubt or question, anybody? Any confusion here? Good, Sai, good attempt. Okay, one last question for today, number 5. 2 minutes for this. We'll get something same, Sahil, in the exam. It's just that you overthink and you do things wrong. But yes, it's more or less the same things that come in the exam. Okay, should be done and good attempt. Are happening. The changes are just now happening or they have been happening. So it will be climate change is not only a human problem. Animals have to dash to it as well. So with to should be first form of verb, something that goes with preposition to later on as well. So animals have to adapt to. Adapt to means adjust to climate change as well. Some warm-blooded animals are shape shifting and getting larger beaks, legs, and ears to better dash their body temperatures as the planet gets hotter. To better, what is the verb that we use with body temperature? We generally use regulate. Regulate is control, but we use the word regulate their body temperatures as the planet gets hotter. Climate change is a complex and dash phenomenon. So we need an adjective for the noun phenomenon. One adjective is it is complex. The other one is it is multifaceted is the only adjective I can see here. Multifaceted means a lot of factors it has. Multifaceted phenomenon that's been occurring progressively. So it is difficult to dash just one cause of the shape shifting. So it has multiple factors, multifaceted, and that is why it is difficult to pinpoint just one cause. Pinpoint means pick up that one cause. Why cannot we go with highlight? Because highlight does not mean pick up. Highlight is like there are, let's say, 5 causes, all of them are equal. Highlight is something that gets the attention. It may or may not be the most important one. That is highlight. So one of, let's say, one of the institute gets highlighted, even though it may or may not be good, but it's just highlighted. So here they're saying it's difficult to pick exactly the right cause of shape shifting. So we'll say difficult to pinpoint that which one exactly is the issue. But these changes dash across wide geographical regions. These changes have been occurring because it's not just now, it has been a period of time that we are facing this situation. So these changes have been occurring across wide geographical regions and among a diverse dash of species. So diverse variety of species, but we do have array given to us, which is more academic than variety. So we'll go with that. A diverse array of species, which means variety only, right? So these are the answers for the last one. Any doubts, anybody, any questions? Fifth one. So fifth one, I think they have been a bit playful here. It should be that has been here. So from here, you should have got the hint here to know that it should be has, because you cannot say that is been occurring. Phenomenon that has been occurring means it's a phenomenon that it's not just now, it's been continuing from a period of time till present. So that's why it should be have been occurring. Good for us, a good attempt. 22 out of 26 is a good score. Anyone with 26? Anybody? Okay, these were all the questions that we had to do today. Good, Manjot, very good. Manjot, have you booked your test? Okay, so these were all the questions that we had to do today. If anybody's getting late, I'll see you tomorrow, Wednesday, same time, 6:30. Yes, we don't have a class on Thursday on the occasion of Diwali. Just to inform you in advance, please, we have already updated this, but just announcement, we do not have a class on Thursday this week. And now this is all for today's session. Those who do not have any doubts or queries, yes, you are free to leave, and I will see you tomorrow. Those who have anything to ask or talk about can do it now. Bye-bye. Take care, those who are going. Good night. Sahil need to work on 19 out of 26 can be a bit better, like 21, 22. Should be above 20 basically. And it would be very, very safe. Send me a scorecard, Manjot. We'll stay in touch and let's see what we can do. Rita, exam tomorrow. All the very best, Rita. What are you aiming for? Message me, Johnson. We'll, because need to ask certain questions, to see. Anyone who needs assistance, please note this number and drop me a text on WhatsApp. Okay. And bye. Take care. Good night.